Welcome to the Co-Struction Podcast.
My name is Linnea Andersson.
Josh Robbins. Did I fuck that up?
He forgot his own
And I'm
name.
Anthony Wilkinson.
We're back this week. What was our idea last week? It was Nimbus.
Nimbus.
Our noir Matrix crossover
That was exhausting.
hit of the summer, where people were turning into animals so that other people's brains could be put into them. Something like that.
I think we would need a summer blockbuster budget to be able to pull that one off. I think that's the only way it could really be done.
Honestly,
I think
it was exhausting.
We kind of did this last time. What do you think would be the medium of this story? Because I haven't thought about this one that much, mostly just because of how exhausting it was.
It's a sci-fi. It's a cheap sci-fi on the Sci-Fi Channel that was like, well, let's just do this.
See, I think it's a comic book.
You think it's a comic book?
I think it's a comic book series.
Not anime. Anime comic book?
No, I don't think it's anime. I think it's a comic book. Just because of how distinct the different styles are, I think it would be interesting to see it on a 2D paper format.
Okay, maybe it would be less convoluted in that way.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that, or I think it would need to be a big Hollywood blockbuster to
Huge, massive production.
Yeah, because I think this gets very goofy the cheaper it is, and I think that
That'd be fun.
I know, right?
That could be a hoot.
I think the best way to go.
Concept trying.
So I'm landing at comic book for this one,
okay.
this story, this.
I'll agree to that because I feel like that's the most viable to make it least stupid.
I'm sticking with blockbuster. I really want to see this on the big screen done right.
I think it's going to be independently produced by the remaining Blockbuster video stores.
They're going to sell the last
With
5
GameStop.
blockbusters they have for $20.
In collaboration with GameStop. Because they're dying too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's good for them. So it's going to get like a video game spin-off.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah, exactly.
That would be a fun video game. That would be pretty interesting. Yeah, because like you could do the different powers and like as like a skill tree kind of a thing. It could have some good mechanics to it.
The powers?
The different emotions.
Isn't that
No,
that
you're
was
thinking of Son of the Sun.
Oh my God,
was
my
way
bad.
more valid.
Whoops.
And the Congregation
Nimbus
of
was
Solitude.
like, we
Whoops.
tried.
And then Nimbus. No, it's because I
Cut
still
that
think Son of a
part.
Sun would be. I still think Son of a Sun would be a good anime.
Yeah, I think,
My bad. I'm mixing them up.
Josh,
This is too early
fuck
for me
you.
to start mixing these up. God damn it.
Josh. All right, so let's get on with it.
All right, so now we got to roll for our ideas for today. So once again, it's going to be 3. It starts out with 2 buzzwords. We're going to pick 2 numbers between 1 and 59, randomly generated by Google's random number generator.
It's true.
45.
I swear to God, we've gotten that
and
last
57.
time. No.
45 and
If
57.
we've already gotten 45, we need a rule.
Oh, okay.
Okay?
We have gotten 45.
Yeah, we did 45 2 times ago, so we need to.
So we'll just re-roll the number if we got it.
Yeah, exactly.
6.
Oh, that's a great number.
6 and 57. So number 6 is cyberpunk.
Is that, what's the difference between cyber? Okay.
And then 57 is medical. Now, specifically, this word was put on there to be like ER or like scrubs. Like that's what that.
Scrubs. Cyberpunk Scrubs.
So,
oh my
is
God.
Cyberpunk like the more Miami Vice of vaporwave?
Cyberpunk's more like it's kind of focuses on like the dystopian aspect of like people are living lives with like robotic parts and like flying cars and all this stuff, but it's like super like.
But then with steam engines.
No, not at all. It's very much, it is cyber, like it is screens, it's all this stuff. It's kind of more of this, it's very close to like Blade Runner 2049 or the original Blade Runner.
It's like Miami Vice Vaporwave. Can you Google cyberpunk really fast so I can have a visual?
I think Vaporwave's a little bit different.
No, that's what I said. Miami Vice version.
I think cyberpunk usually, I think it focuses more on the idea that capitalism continues into the future and like
I want these.
it's like the bleakest form of futuristic society and stuff like that. Yeah, first thing pops up is like Blade Runner.
So do cyberpunk versus vaporwave. Because I think
No,
I saw
no,
some.
I'm just doing
The
cyberpunk.
reason I asked that is because I saw a great Reddit post that explained it to me.
I don't want to sit here and read a Reddit post.
Yeah,
So I'm not
Cyberpunk
going
episode.
to read a Reddit
Look.
post. I'm going to cut it out.
See?
Don't be difficult.
Stuff like this.
Okay, into it. Works for me.
Vaporwave kind of has this weird irony, and Cyberpunk doesn't. Cyberpunk is like straight. It's like Vaporwave if it wasn't trying to be funny. Because Vaporwave always has this feeling that it's trying to be
It's self-aware.
it's-
Vaporwave is self-aware.
Cyberpunk is unironic Vaporwave,
Okay.
if that helps.
That does help. It's dark, unironic.
Yeah.
Vaporwave.
Now we gotta find our 3 major events.
Woo!
46,
You were right there, man.
46, which is martial law.
Oh, that work. I think that'll work really well with Cyberpunk.
We need to be writing
31,
these down.
augmentation.
These are all fitting quite a bit.
And 10,
God, these
time travel.
Okay,
So,
hit me.
and then our inhabitants. So, what's going to be in our world? It's going to be populated by.
With our humans.
That is number 21.
Go on.
Elementals.
And elementals are what? Tell me about those.
I mean, you know what elementals are.
Not always.
Like they're it's like things made of like water or air or fire.
Got it. Okay, I understand. All right, let's launch.
Um,
Okay, so let's break this down. Real
and in
quick.
addition, humans can be in the world as well. But
I mean, I
Do
thought
they have
humans
to
were our
be?
standard.
I don't think they have to be.
I don't
I
know
think
if I
our-
want humans in this world.
Really?
I don't think I do.
I feel like it's like the
how is-
basis at which we work off of.
But
Because
let's
Let's pretend it's not.
maybe it's a hospital for elementals, but it's run by humans.
interesting. Okay.
It's run by human wizards.
It would make more sense if there was a human
just-
hospital run by elementals.
That does make a lot more sense, actually. I kind of like the idea.
Okay.
Um,
We can keep the humans this time.
And so instead of a hospital, it's more like a retreat.
Okay.
Because hospital.
Okay.
So like
Well,
like
and
one of
we're
those
trying to-
fancy
It's a
rehab
business
centers.
retreat, yeah.
It could be a rehab center, but we
And, like,
are
some
definitely
mountains.
constrained for it has to be a medical facility.
Yeah, it's a retreat of repair for humans run by elementals.
So where's the martial
Okay.
law come in?
Well, wait a second, Jesus, we just started.
Maybe it's a rehab center, and these humans get so fed up that they try to overthrow
The martial
their
law.
golem.
Caretakers?
Yeah.
I mean,
What-
what I would
so-
love is that the elementals, some of them are good, some of them are bad. Okay? The elementals that run the retreat, the secret retreat in the mountains, right?
Sure.
Will go ahead and heal the humans because they
Don't
pity
forget.
things.
Don't forget, we still got to get time travel and augmentation.
Listen,
and
I
just
feel like
started
those are
talking.
easier. I
I
feel like those
just-
are a
I'm
little
just saying.
easier.
I'm just saying, be prepared
That's gonna be annoying.
before we run too far down one path.
Right.
You
No, I
gotta-
mean, I'm setting up something, okay? I'm setting up something here. We have good elementals and we have bad elementals. The bad elementals are martial law, okay? The retreat is the medical center, and the humans go there, right, because they are injured from fighting the martial law, and ultimately it is about the greater good and the balance between the humans and the elementals.
I have an idea, but you can finish if there's more to your thought.
I mean, there's always more, but
So hear me out. So we got elementals and augmentation. I think that's kind of like these two different sides of you have your nature versus technology. And this retreat, the medical thing is maybe this is a place for people who have rejected their augmentation to go live in nature, to go like be more natural. And so there's this constant kind of war going on between these natural followers and these people who think that the next step in human evolution is to
I
technologically
forgot about
augment
augmentation.
themselves.
And I think it would be even more fun to make this retreat not just a healing place, but to enable the humans to actually have the ability to fight the shitty elementals.
Do you think this is a training camp? Because that's not. It has to be a
It's-
medical
Well,
facility.
no, it's both. Because, I mean, it's a medical thing to augment somebody.
True.
You know, I mean, they have to go on the table to get augmented.
Also, we still got time travel to fit in this bad boy.
We're working towards that.
But what? Okay, so how about? Gosh, this is a hard one for some
I-
reason.
Really,
Yeah.
I'm feeling it. Like,
I don't
I got it in
because
my head.
I I like the idea of. I really think there's something in the separation between the natural and the technical.
Okay.
And I kind of like, because I imagine it almost like, you have your classic story of like the soldier who's fighting for one side and discovered their side is wrong. So you have this, starts out with this soldier guy who's like decked out with all this technology, like has this badass cyberpunk gun hooked up to his arm or something. And also somebody's fighting and he gets captured and he wakes up in this facility and all his augmentations have been removed.
Ooh.
But it's like, instead of being trapped in this like gray building where he usually lives with like these big panels, he goes to the panel and he's able to open it's just a window looking out on an actual forest instead of a projection of a forest he's so used to.
Okay, so we have a soldier that is augmented to fight the elementals that are evil. He gets rescued or I guess repaired by elementals that are not evil who do not believe in augmentation. Is that what you mean?
I don't think that's quite it. I'm trying to build I'm trying to do the very base here, is we find that line between the elementals are like this good natural force and the augmentations, and something about the augmentations makes people want to...
humans versus humans and elementals are supplementary.
Kind of. Or maybe it's something like...
Sorry.
As people become like more and more like accustomed to technology as it develops, they have less and less of a need for the elementals. Whereas like before, they may have helped them produce things or build things or create electricities, run factories. But now, as they've developed more and more, they don't need the elementals as much.
So they almost become folklore.
Or maybe they need to capture the elementals to use for like power or something, like a fire elemental can like heat a furnace which produces power, a water elemental can
part of me loves the historical story of sort of like, okay,
they used to just help without being coerced into it.
The elementals and the humans used to have a very intrinsic relationship between it's akin to like humans and nature, right? And so over time humans got further and further away from nature and also destroyed things, right? And so the relationship between the elementals and the humans grew more separate. And so we have like this situation or this world where like humans are all cyborged out, and the story kind of begins in this place where we have our quote unquote hero in a place where elementals reside, where they do and are willing to heal, right? And he ended up there. I mean, I'm trying.
Yeah, I think that there is something with the elementals,
the return to naturalness.
Right, that's what I'm saying, and like there's this view about how to treat the elementals. Is there's one side of humanity that says like we should embrace and work with them, and the other side says we should use them for ourselves. There's no need for them.
So basically, to enslave the elementals.
Yes.
Enslavement versus not enslavement.
Yeah, and the elementals in exchange, they are able to help people heal and stuff in this facility that's isolated, that's like one of the last patches of life on Earth, because it still has these, Earth elementals that are growing plants and these water elementals and all this other stuff.
A good place.
It's an oasis, sort of.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's like, and so this soldier is basically part of this team that's trying to find this oasis, and he ends up not killing someone, or there's a baby elemental that he's like, they have orders to like shoot to kill, and he like stops there, and while that's happening gets bonked over the head by a rock elemental or something, and then he wakes up.
I thought it was humans versus humans. No, it doesn't work that way.
Well, I think there are humans that are on the sides of the elemental. Like he wakes up in this facility, and there's like he wakes up and there's some old lady who doesn't have an arm, like she's missing her arm. And
because I love that he was found by his love interest later on.
Yeah, I mean you could always do something like
that. His elemental love interest.
And
weird.
Okay.
And what might
shape of water type shit.
Exactly. Weird.
Well, and it could be a human also that helps him out. Like,
yeah.
And like I also like the idea that maybe they can give up their augmentations. They get these after they become like attuned with the elementals. They give them this gift of like, now instead of having a robot arm, they have like this sweet fire arm or something.
Yes.
What's more punk than an arm made of lightning?
Yeah,
Nothing.
Or like limbs of lightning, like shit like that. Like that'd be dope.
And so like these people, it's like they've augmented themselves naturally versus like the more like cyberpunk.
Like we literally just drilled this.
More like cyborg. It's
But
Lightning.
Lightning
one last little
I know.
twist in here.
Yeah,
Time travel has to be involved.
And
the idea is to go back to the time when the elementals and humans coexisted peacefully.
Okay, and so
Like,
to build off of
literally?
that,
Restore balance.
so basically the hero somehow has this impetus where he needs to understand the current situation. In order to do so, he needs to understand the past. He needs to understand the history of and the relationships of humans and elementals back when things were not complicated, in order to break down the stories that are currently putting them against each other.
Now, to clarify, so are you saying he literally is going to travel back in time to do this?
Yeah, I'm down for that.
Is there
how does this work, and why do they not use time travel to fix things?
According to the elementals, which are the ones that they're the only ones that are capable of facilitating time travel, right? Because they are governors of the earth, right? To maintain balance.
I think time travel has to be this like super secretive thing that like maybe like the elementals, at least humans working with them, have like been working on for a while, and like it's like a one-shot thing.
Okay, so it's like a project. It's a project to get back to understand what's wrong.
Or figure out what happened in the past that created the imbalance.
Ooh.
Or
yeah, there's a possibility.
That's what I'm saying.
What's the event that triggered it?
Ooh, and so the event itself needs to be something like evil with like a stone in the middle. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I guess it could start. I guess
Yeah.
it could start out as he wakes up and he gets he's one of the people who accidentally gets thrust back in time with these other couple of characters or something. He just happens to be there,
That'd be fun.
and because it is like he goes into this oasis and he's helping destroy this last little bit. And so it is destroyed by the time he gets sent back with these other people who have to convince him to be on their side.
Ooh.
And
so the definite future, if nothing changes in the past, is that this place is destroyed.
yes,
And so like,
and he's part of that.
yeah, he's part of the destruction, or he was like knocked out right beforehand, and that's why he's with this group of people.
I think maybe it is that moment of hesitation is something that ends up with him getting sucked in as well. Like he has the moment to end it. But he sees it's a person, or he sees it's a child elemental or something, or both, and then it's these three or these two or whatever we decide get sucked back, and then they're suddenly like, wait, why did you spare us?
There's
Like
it's 6 total. I think
We
it's
just
5
see
total. Yeah.
yeah, so it's like this mismatched.
Oh.
It's this mismatched team that gets sent back, and he was on the bad guys' side. He's the cyberpunk dude,
Mm-hmm.
and then you have
Your 4 gooders.
yeah, you're 4 people, and they at first they have him like, and then like it all starts out very
chained up.
tense because they're like, can we trust this guy or whatever? But he's like, well, I know how this works. Like I'm a
And
soldier.
so they're basically
like,
trekking forward with him, like with his arms behind his back at the
They
beginning.
fuck up his leg, and like
Oh.
his whatever augmentations in his leg is broken. It won't work. They can't fix it
they
because
got
they're
like
back in time.
EMPs or whatever because they won't affect their elemental form stuff, but it would.
affect all of his cyber tech.
Yeah.
And so like at a certain point, like he like has to become more in tune with the elementals because he doesn't have access to his limbs until that happens.
So basically, I think where we've landed is there is our main guy who's this cyberpunk soldier
Yeah.
who is there. He's going part of this team that's going to destroy this oasis. That's the home of the elementals.
Right.
It is a medical facility, so we can check that box.
What is their motive to doing so?
They want to capture all the elementals so they can tap them for their
Got
power and natural resources.
Great.
Yeah, and so yeah, they want to enslave the elementals, and this time travel crew he is able to basically stumbles into this chamber as it's about to happen, and instead of killing them all, he gets sucked back in time with them and has to gain their trust as they go and try to prevent the same thing from happening again.
So the battle is taking place almost like exactly where the pool is, because that pool is the place, right? It's kind of a last place. I mean,
What are you saying?
The Oasis. The Oasis is the last
Yeah.
place, and the
Okay.
war is
And
closing in on it. It's
Yeah.
certainly going to be destroyed.
Which is
What's with all the flies in here?
which is where the time travel is taking place.
Right. So they're going back in time, figuring out what exactly happened that caused the humans and the elementals to not
Get
Get
it.
along.
So they're jumping that far back. I was thinking it was like a week.
Oh,
Okay,
I
sure.
was thinking it was
Yeah,
like
yeah,
100
yeah.
years.
I guess it just kind of depends because I think if you go far enough back,
you can't really return.
Yeah, like it's like
I assume there was a way back. Just some sort of ancient relic sort of way back.
that's fair. I mean, I don't know. I think that's what we need to decide now. Are they going back like a long time? Because I think if you go too far back, then do we still get to play with all our fun cyberpunk stuff?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like that breaks when they time travel, which is why like they have the advantage over him now for sure, and he has to gain their trust so he can use his limbs again.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I meant more like when it traveled back. Like, so if we're going that far back to the establishment between human elemental.
The first third has cyberpunk action, the steampunk action, whatever. Mm-hmm. And the last third does, or the last fourth does. And the middle section is where it's incapacitated. That's how I kind of picture that story arc.
Yeah. I'm saying more of the rest of the world. So, like, how far back are they traveling back? Thousands of years? Are they traveling back hundreds?
What if they were
10 years, 1 year? Like,
shooting for a week and then accidentally went way far back?
I love that.
Like something messed up.
But it was serendipitous net. Okay, so
it works out perfectly for them, of course.
So it's like they meant for a week to do a different sort of mission, but then like the universe made it so. Okay? That they got sent back much further because that is the true root of the problem between them.
So it's like they have to. So they are originally going back, and their goal is to like assassinate somebody or something.
Yeah, exactly.
But then they go so far back that they actually end up at the root of this.
That allows them to reconcile.
And they see like a baby version of one of the big elder elementals.
Yeah.
That they're talking to.
Basically, we have two, groups, right? That don't that disagree, and the original group traveling back was going for more harm, per usual. Or not harm, but more of what they believe is right, to go assassinate or whomever or whatever. But inadvertently, they end up going much further back, and it ends up that travel back so far allows them to see a bigger picture and solve a deeper issue between these two groups.
Okay. Which
is their innate, disagreements. I know it sounds really complicated, but...
But here's where I get confused, is because I don't see... Well, and this is what we need to talk about.
Yeah.
What is the series of events then? Like, how does that stay interesting for a narrative?
Right.
There's some device that someone creates that, like, incapacitates an elemental that takes whatever element they are. So, like, if their electric takes power, if their earth takes
back to the creation
material.
of that device.
So they're trying to stop that from happening. So we're seeing and so instead of being this overwhelming gray cyberpunk society, we're seeing the beginning of this technology. So they jump back almost to, like, let's say 50 years from now or whatever.
Sure, yeah.
Back to when we were like, hey, maybe we could just like force them to give us their energy.
Yeah,
before it stopped being like whatever agreement they had before.
The only thing is maybe a slight change is maybe it's not hundreds and hundreds of years. Maybe it's like
maybe 100,
50. Hear me out, because then we can play a lot with the whole these figures that the soldier knows in his life as like his generals and the leaders. So we get to see their start of their story.
That would be really fun. I like that a lot.
And we get to see the other side of his blind following and seeing their rise to power. Like,
absolutely.
I think very similar to like how historically you can look at like Hitler's rise to power or something like that.
And so it's sort of when he gets to meet these people that he put blind faith in, right? And be like, they're just humans too. Maybe this isn't correct.
Yeah. And so, and I think there's a lot of things there. And I think with the time travel, I think it's more fun to play with that. Mm-hmm. If you jump too far back, then it's almost
the story that was before.
Kind of. I mean, you get like, I guess, a Terminator. Well, but even Terminator, like they only jump far enough back that they're babies. Like these characters are still kind of there.
Yeah. But this allows us to keep our characters, but
without relationships, them seeing each other, like seeing themselves, like necessarily immediately. That. I don't know how old the elementals get. How long do you think they stick around? Like, do they live? Eternal. Do they have like a? Do they have like a huge lifespan? Or do they only have like so much material?
Maybe it is a material component, like, no, because then you could just like feed them more.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like their natural lifespan is like anywhere from 800 to like 1500. That feels right to me.
Yeah, I think they just live a very long time.
Yeah,
but they do have an end
point. Yeah.
So like a fire elemental might die quicker than like let's say a rock
A more
elemental.
peaceful.
I like that
Or
too.
like
Yeah.
depending on what the element is, depends on their lifespan.
Or maybe they all work kind of similar to like how a phoenix works. It's like when they die, they become
Yeah.
young again.
I like
And-
that a lot.
So they start over. Yeah, that makes sense.
And
Did
but
they come back with their memories? Side note.
No.
Okay.
I think that's the thing. Like,
Okay.
'cause I also really like the idea of
So
this.
there's a limited amount of elementals.
I
in
like the
that
idea
theory.
of the soldier guy. He like one. I think he should
Kind
be a very good soldier.
Yeah.
And he ends up taking out this big, huge elemental, like this fucking gigantic one that
And a
like
very
that
old
incapacitates the
and
Rex.
important one.
And then the thing like is destroyed, and it's this little child there suddenly, and he doesn't know
Ooh.
what to do with it. Like
Right.
he
I mean,
goes, he
like-
sees something moving in the rubble, and he goes to like
You can
blast it.
truly end an elemental if you kill it and then kill it again. If you see what I'm saying.
I think I see what you mean, but
Or,
it's
I
it's
mean,
not
there
like
needs to be
killing it twice,
something-
but like when it's in that final form, like that's when
Right.
you can actually snuff the life out of it. Like
yeah, that's what I mean.
They-
Ooh, so
they can only regenerate if they've reached a certain point in their progression of
Right.
life.
So I mean, if it's within its
so
first
you cut
number,
that short.
yeah. And so it's like, okay, you killed this 700-year-old thing, and now here it is vulnerable at your feet. You can end it for good, and it can't come back.
Right.
And so,
Because like so for them to like age, do they have to like acquire more material per se?
I think it really I think there
No,
is a
like
material
no material.
component just because like they need to eat or whatever, but I think in general they just like it's just like a human. They except for unlike humans, they keep growing until they reset or whatever.
Yeah.
So grandpa's like fucking huge.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he's a mountain.
Gotcha.
Grandpa's a
I
mountain.
dig it. Yeah.
Grandpa's
Or like a
mountain.
bonfire.
Yeah, and so
And a fire element cruises in to like
For
be
some
like,
reason-
it's time for you to reset.
for some reason I do love the
Volcano.
idea of a big rock guy and then carrying around like this little pile of pebbles or something that's like on their shoulder. So we got soldier.
Cyberpunk soldier.
Our soldier's name can be Chet Manley, nickname Rex.
I'm gonna argue that.
Oh man.
Obviously, that's the best name. So we don't even need to talk about it.
Clearly the perfect choice for this
Whoa.
work.
His
Could not
name is Steve Cyberpunk. And
His name is Bobbert Roberts.
Robert Roberts.
then we got Stones McGee.
You didn't want to call him Rocky, really?
Yeah.
No, he's not a hand-to-hand combat.
He's not
Okay.
I mean, he
Boulder
probably
guy?
is.
Call him Boulder Guy. Boulder Guys.
Boulder guys.
Can you
Alright.
call him
Rock
Boulder Guys?
elemental. Rock elemental. You mean a boulder gas?
Yeah, Boulder Guys.
Oh man.
So you got Boulder Guys?
So, and then I guess we could have.
Ken McGee? Like, I don't know what we named him.
I like the idea of you said someone. I do also like the idea of someone with a lightning arm
That's so punk.
but also because I feel like they would be the best to turn. They could literally like zap his augmented parts to turn them on or off. Like
Yeah.
she's the one who is like able. I have pictures of
Oh,
she.
I like.
She's the one who's able to like debilitate him essentially.
Okay.
Turn
So
off all of his
Maybe
stuff.
he doesn't ever like inherit like an elemental part, but like just gets his stuff turned on and off by this person who has.
I think that's maybe like the
Ooh.
final.
Ooh.
So he like they start fighting.
Yeah,
just for you.
He fights along with them with the augmentations
Yeah.
for a bit, and then something happens and he loses them. But he at this point is able to get fitted with like new elemental parts, and maybe he's like
you can't eat. Yeah. Okay.
maybe and also he's kind of a little bit like
Keep
this Avatar character.
For sure, he can take. His whatever augment. No, I don't know. I don't know if whatever augmentations he's got would allow him to, but like maybe he like gives those up in exchange for.
Or maybe he learns that he can kind of use both together. Maybe that's his deal.
Okay.
Like it's he is because I mean also I think that like the argument between naturalism and I don't know what the technology part opposite of naturalism would be, but you know what I mean.
It's
Like
technological advancement. I think that makes
yeah,
sense.
it's not like you have to go completely either or.
right.
So like his is more of like this compromise, this like embracing of both.
I don't know why. I think I just really want our character to lose a limb at some point, but like maybe that's how they figure that out. Is like he loses one arm or something, and like
Yeah, and I think
realizes that it can coexist.
yeah, I mean, I honestly imagine him being kind of more machine than man to start out with.
Absolutely.
How did he
And
end
so-
up that way?
I mean, that's just like I think that's just like the society essentially. Like, I mean, I think there could be several reasons. Maybe
so
this
like a child is born normally, and then naturally, childs are augmented.
or the world is so polluted and like weird and all this other stuff
that
that
has to happen for it to survive.
yeah, there's like birth defects and stuff like this, and like and so it's like almost the society is reliant upon these, and then like as you become a soldier and stuff like this, you get more augmented because anytime you get injured in battle, you know, they just
Fix you up.
They just fix you up.
The mortality becomes less and less of an issue, but is still a reality.
yeah, it's like, but at the same time, you know, he's kind of realizing how miserable his life is because you know it's all gray and
like, what are they fighting
capitalist.
for exactly? You know what I
Well-
mean? I mean, I guess to abuse the elementals, right?
So
I mean, there's only so. I imagine at this point there's a shortage of resources.
Yep. And that's why they abuse the elementals to
Yeah.
use them to get by.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
yeah, by necessity. So the Oasis is full of the cyberpunk people. Then
Yeah,
I
so
love
like,
it. Yeah.
yeah, so I think it's like all these people who have abandoned the cyberpunk society are living in this oasis. So let's
That's where
do
the
a-
color is. I should say more because
It's where the
I think of
idealists
cyberpunk.
are.
I think of a lot of like the neon, the bright colors, like the crazy hair. Is that kind of what our Oasis looks like?
I would think,
Yeah. No, well,
wouldn't they be the more like natural ones that have abandoned?
that's
you
what I'm saying.
know?
I think the cyberpunk really is the army and stuff like that. And they
Okay.
have like the big like the screens and stuff, and that's where all the color comes
Got you.
from.
Okay,
But then the naturalistic, it's just like a lot more nature.
for sure.
So I mean, it's basically the Oasis represents balance, right? It's trying to
Mhm.
find balance between human nature and the elementals, and you know, humans' nature is to be kind of consumptive, right? And those that reside at the Oasis are more mindful of their consumptions,
Yeah.
and understand that there needs to be a balance between, you know, and a relationship between nature, the elementals, and themselves.
And when I'm just thinking, so they jump back in time because I think we start out seeing basically this destruction of the oasis, and then you jump back to see almost like the founding of this oasis,
Ooh.
and like
I
that's where
love
they
that.
because they appear in the same place that they zipped away from. you
So
know?
basically,
Mhm.
like, our scene is cut of like it burning and then it flourishing.
Yes.
Yeah.
and you know, and then that's where we get to see some of these other characters that we've seen the older version of, like the
Mhm.
elemental and these people who we've just seen die, and
We
maybe
need a primary
Maybe they were good
villain.
before.
We need a yes.
I like the idea of the villain being like a decent guy beforehand.
Yeah,
Anyway.
yeah. So we need a primary villain. I like the idea that he was like all pro elemental.
I like the idea of him being the general of the cyberpunk army, and the original plan was to go back a week and so they could assassinate him
Ooh.
and take him out in hopes to like stop the army's advancement and save the oasis.
Yes,
But then, like
that
you said,
makes
they
perfect
end up going
sense.
back too far.
And to the point where we basically humanize our villain,
Mm-hmm.
which we love.
but
And
here's my
keep him
thing.
on the right path.
Here's
Yeah.
my thing. I think that's a little bit difficult. That line is a little bit difficult to walk if he is part of the Oasis society because
Well, he was
Here we-
originally. We need an impetus to why he changed.
well, no,
sides.
but hear me out because they jump back in time. Their mission is to kill this guy, and he's standing there. I don't think there's anything that's going to stop him. Like it's not like they're going to be able to see anything in a short amount of time that would make them be like, "Hold on, we can't just kill this man."
Well, I mean, they wouldn't do
I don't
it
think they
because
see
he's
him for a
surrounded
while.
by soldiers. I mean, they're just 5 people. And then they jump back in a place and time where they were not expecting at all, right? Like, they expected to be jumped back a week ago, knowing what they were going to see a week ago. But instead, they're jumped back way later, and they're like, holy fuck, what the fuck's this
So they jump back
celebration?
They jump back way later,
50 years.
and they
And so they see this general being celebrated by both sides, right? This villain.
I don't even think
That's
we have the sides at that
complicated.
point. I think the general is just like in whatever version of the society is 50 years ago, which we would assume is a little more balanced, a little less based on consumption.
Right.
The general is a
Not
decent person,
evil. Yeah.
not some terrible, horrible person.
and
Like there's some event that happens shortly after they arrive in the past that
gives him-
explains why he's this awful person now.
Yeah. And then they're like,
So
He
conflicted.
flunked art school.
so maybe something happens with this guy. They come back in time and they see their target, but they're subdued by the past people.
Yeah.
They stop them, and they're being held in this cell, and then something bad happens, which
I mean, I don't even
They
think
don't know.
that
They don't know it's him yet. They don't even know it's him until like way
Oh,
later.
that's
after
true.
they
So he
meet
would
him.
look totally
Anyway,
different.
Sorry.
No, yeah, no, but he would look totally different.
Yeah, it's like they're being interviewed by this guy,
Yeah.
and then as they walk out, he introduces himself.
So
or
you
something,
imagine
and,
that they
they're like,
poof
"Oh,
into
shit."
the past and they immediately get incarcerated?
Yeah. Because it's just these strangers pop up in the middle of this facility, you know,
Yeah.
that this is the start of this healing sanctuary or whatever.
Right. This
As it's being
Oasis
found, well, because I think it was this medical facility that was their
Yeah.
base of operation.
Yeah.
And at the founding, and ironically, this is also where like these augmentations were developed as well.
Okay.
You know, like
For initially good. Oh.
because the understanding of their work with the elementals and the understanding of life is what allowed them to replicate the human form in that way. Because these augmentations, I think there's an element to them that maybe isn't all technical. Maybe there isn't, because like you can feel with them and you can do all this other stuff that
So-
isn't like a robot.
Augmentations that affect humans in a way, but are these augmentations also then being applied to elementals?
They're trying, but it doesn't go well.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it is more like the elementals are, it's once again like they're working side by side, and it's like for these extreme cases, because the elementals, like their goal is always healing, like they want to create and heal.
Mm-hmm.
That's just their nature, and they're
Right.
trying to work with these humans
Progressive growth.
to like, you know, you see something like an elemental working, like growing these plants that, you know, are being encased by this fire, or maybe that's why they need to capture the elementals, because the elementals it's them working together that creates these augmentations, you know,
Yeah,
like it's
that's
a
it.
combination of the elements to make these prosthetics that are more like they're more less
couldn't be
robotic
bonded.
and more android.
So they couldn't be bonded to humans without the elementals' powers involved.
I feel like that makes it harder to enslave them. You know what I mean? Like, well, I mean, unless
mean,
they're
you
like
could
you
force-
coerce them.
I mean, if you trap them and deprive them of resources, they're going to wane. So they're motivated to then, in their trapped state,
Well,
feel the.
we already have a kind of way that we could possibly do this, is that if he destroys all of the old elementals, all of their knowledge is lost, and he can raise them to do what he wants.
Okay. Yeah.
So
If their
Yeah,
memory is
okay.
lost.
so basically, like,
To destroy the titans of the elemental species.
and turn them into these shapeable, moldable things that he can control.
Generate. And so then now we need to decide what ruined him.
I think it was like the ability to like have all this power, to like take it and to be able to use it and abuse it, turn it against the elementals, and like start to consume more and more of the natural resources in the world.
He needs an emotional drive.
Fair.
Somebody needs to die.
Also, I really, just kind of backtracking a little bit, I really like the idea of the prosthetics being just technological, and then like elementals being able to like, they kind of like what we had before with like elementals being able to bond with a human, and that's how you end up with like a firearm or something. I think
Oh,
technology
that's
maybe
cute.
is just that
I
good
missed
at this
that.
point.
I missed that.
Maybe.
You know what would be such a nice add-on, and I know this is a little left wing. So my theory is that I kind of like the idea of humans and elementals being able to bond and share a form together as one. And it's very, very rare. Very, very rare.
It's like in the Avatar where they would touch their braids.
Sure.
Sure.
Run with it. If that's the
Okay.
visual you want with these.
Yeah.
I think our main mistake is that we haven't been trying to make Avatar every time, because that is I think it's the movie of our generation. And I really think that we're really shooting ourselves in the leg by not just making Avatar 2 Electric Boogaloo.
You know,
Boogaloo.
with a different director, maybe. Okay, we all love Shyamalamadan. Okay, but anyways.
That was Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Yeah.
I'm talking about Avatar,
Avatar.
the Blue People.
Is that?
Oh,
I don't want to
I've been
embarrass
thinking
myself
about the
again.
Airbender this
Okay, I was
entire
right.
time.
Great. Didn't want to get
I
it
was
wrong.
totally thinking about the one
Why on earth
The big
would
blue
we-
people. We're not the.
We're
because
Avatar: The
Avatar
Last
has
Airbender.
elements.
I know, but he doesn't have a braid.
I know.
He
Oh,
specifically is bald. Yeah, you got a point there.
Listen, Kiara had
I
a braid
guess.
or whatever her name.
Katara.
Thank you, Kiara.
Cataracts.
Okay, so I do like the idea. So maybe when they jump back, so maybe it was that they used to do these elemental augmentations, but
Technology took over.
yeah, and so this guy, it's him discovering, and once he does discover the mechanical,
Mm-hmm.
he
He's like, that's easier because you don't have to convince an element, or I guess bond with an element. It's more efficient to just force a machine part onto a body. And so that is where the relationship broke, is that we were no longer trying to forge a relationship between elements and humans. Humans were like, yeah, like, fuck it, we're powerful. It's whatever.
And then that
Elemental
spiraled into them
Into war.
into them wanting to use the elementals for
Power.
resources.
yeah.
To power their augmentations instead of, again, forging a relationship between nature, the elements, and humans that occurred previously in their past history naturally.
So are we just doing? Sorry.
Oh, sorry. I feel like the elemental arms have to be recharged, and that's why you need to have some sort of relationship with an elemental for it to work.
Yeah.
Here's my other question. How many are we? What elements are we doing? Are we just doing like avatar elements? We're doing fire, earth, air, water, or are we doing?
Which avatar?
I think you go with like any like natural thing that makes sense. That seems super vague, but I kind of like keeping it
Do
vague.
we have enough? Okay, so
Mostly just to keep
Fire.
the lightning arm in play.
fire, electricity, rock, water, wind,
Plants.
plants, animals.
You can just have like
it's a
I don't
gerbil.
know.
It's a bunch of gerbils.
Lobster claw.
I mean, it'd be
Some
kind of,
lobster, the element of lobster.
Claw.
Yes. Absolutely.
well, maybe they're the main branches of the elementals, and then they kind of like branch out to be like fire has both like lava, and if you wanted to go the avatar route, electricity could still be in there, like,
I feel
Just give it to me.
weather and electricity. So I mean, I think that electricity belongs.
and then
to
like
weather.
earth
Sure.
can be rock, earth can be rock and it can be rock and plant and clay and mineral, like, but it comes out from the basic idea of earth elementals.
Yeah.
And like there's
earth plant. Earth
Yeah.
plant is a thing.
Well, kind of like how, like, you know, like, I hate to use Avatar, but in Avatar, like, earth bending is also kind of metal bending in a sense. That
Yeah,
kind of idea.
yeah.
right. Yeah.
Gotcha,
I think
yeah.
maybe this is a similar thing to where it's not like there's like
Derived
completely
particles.
it's not like a completely unique
I mean, personally, I always view dirt-derived particles as one power, and then plant-derived is another thing. I mean, I feel like nature and Earth are very close, but I think they've always should be separate, in my opinion.
And I'm saying that maybe, I don't know if it's something like these elementals that specifically have to try to like go a certain way, or they're born to control a very specific thing, or they can change their powers depending on how they focus, but they can only really
I think
control
that
one at a time.
they are what they are. They're either plant, they're either rock, they're fire, they're weather,
Yeah.
wind. I mean, I think that that's inherent to their quality as things that are inherent to that world.
So there's like a huge variety in what these elementals are, but their powers can range drastically. So you can have someone who's more of an earth, where any kind of dirt related particle they can
They
mess
have,
with.
and as they get older, they control more of it. I
But-
mean, like,
There's one guy out there who can like only control copper,
right.
like something
Oh, that would
super
be
specific.
Fun. That would be fun. Those are like your little like gods, not gods, but sort of like deities.
Pure, like
Yeah, like this
yeah,
is only
pure
gold.
elementals?
This is only, yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I mean, that's kind of getting really into a
Yeah.
class
I know,
structure
it's
we
but
don't have to, but I
know,
love
but I
this.
love
but
that.
also there'd be so many, if you have to do very specific ones. So think about it, if you have a copper elemental and you have copper, gold, silver, like copper,
Yeah.
gold, silver, tungsten, like
Yeah.
Exactly.
so you do have like literally just thousands of these original elementals, and
Yeah.
then like
and I like the idea of them staying
Filter
away
these
from
other
everything,
things.
far away, until it gets really, really bad.
So like at the dawn of time, there were like all these pure elementals, and
Yeah.
they started mixing,
Can
and
I-
that's how we got new ones and created different combinations. And
can I give a slight change to that?
yes.
What about exactly the opposite? What if did you guys ever play those phone games where you would have like 4 elements you started out with, and then you would
Yes.
mix 2 together, and
That's
it would
exactly
turn
what I
into
was
something else?
thinking.
And so, what if it's the opposite? Is it originally started out with these 4 elementals that are like the god, like
the original 4.
and hear me out. Those are the 4 that get destroyed in the Oasis, and he ends up saving one of these babies and meets up with the girl with the lightning arm, and it's those 2 and these 4 baby god elementals.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then-
okay.
Well, but they wouldn't. If we're only going back 50 years, right? They would still
So okay,
But here's the
my
thing: when they
theory-
travel back in time,
My theory is that
they erase their current thing. They
Okay.
take the place of
see,
whatever they were.
you know how right before they time traveled, there was just a sea of fire, right? Because they had destroyed those 4, right? Maybe.
So
Oh.
maybe they do destroy 3 of them, but they save one of them.
Because I feel like they should go back far enough that like, hold on.
They would have to say one of them because those 4 are necessary for balance, right? So
Right.
you can take those 4 and eventually create anything. So they destroy
So
3
what
out of
do you
those
do with
4 and
one?
save the one. If you can keep that one keep that one alive, you can like reset the time loop again. But if you can save all 4, you end it.
I guess they don't have to take the big boy. They could just take a smaller elemental, and they do see the destruction of the last 4 elementals, and that has maybe this secondary side effect of like it legitimately they see the world start to end with
Yes.
these. And so like not only are they going back in time and trying to prevent it from getting out of hand, but it's literally the fate of the world relies on them saving these elementals.
All 4, though, not just the one.
And that's why the Oasis has been able to hold out longer than the rest of the world, because it's had the support of these 4 main elementals forever.
So basically, when they hit their time travel mark, the 4 elementals just died.
Mhm.
The 4
Yes.
primary just died, and they expect to be traveled back a week to kill a general or whatever, right? But they end up getting traveled back way further.
Can I picture a slight change?
Yes.
Maybe there's only one of these 4 god elementals. I'm just
Present.
calling them that is present at the Oasis because it's the only one that hasn't been captured.
Okay, so the
And
other
so-
3 are alive.
Are captured and being like
used.
tapped.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so they actually see as this last earth elemental or fire elemental is being enslaved,
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
they basically
Ooh, I like that.
self-destruct in a way, and in doing so, they know that once one of these original 4 dies, all of them die.
Okay, so the 3
So they all 4 just
So the other 3 are alive, being tapped, and then you have your 4th, last free one at the Oasis at the main event of Chaos,
Fire.
getting killed, right? And they go back far enough that it's not dead.
Yeah, and they basically get sent so far back. They get sent far back enough to be able to be there for the capture of maybe a couple of these god elementals.
Okay.
Like they're right at that cusp of when this things start to go to break bad. You know,
the
when,
first one's been captured when they get back.
yeah, like literally that's the event that's going on as
Okay,
they're as they're being held. Like they find out when it is, and they're like, oh my god, like we have to like this bad thing's gonna happen. No one believes them, and then they get captured, and that's what gives them some credibility. They're like, how do you know about this? Are you guys spies? And they start trying to like
Mm-hmm.
get ready to like torture them or whatever, and like they're able finally to convince them what's going on. And
Meanwhile, you have this fake dude who is not on board.
He might be the reason they got arrested, because like if you think about it, like he's going to have augmentations that they've never seen.
Right.
So it's like, who the fuck are you? What the hell
What
is
are
this?
you?
But I mean, and probably some of it would be illegal if he's a soldier. Some of them have to be weaponized, and so they'd be like, you can't have any of that.
I almost like the idea of maybe he is able to escape because his augmentations are advanced enough to get out of the facility.
Okay.
Like he's able to convince the girl with the lightning arm to turn his stuff back on so he can break
Yes.
them out.
Okay.
Okay.
So they haven't picked up on his augmentations then.
Like they're so advanced that like they look like, because maybe we're seeing more rudimentary augmentations on these people to
and
start
his
out
are
with.
more inherent, or I guess
So he
more
would just
natural.
look as if like he didn't have any almost.
He has some
Right.
glowing veins
But like
for scenes permit.
it wouldn't be like anything that they hadn't seen before.
So hear me out. So what happens is they beam down, they beam back to this facility.
Mhm.
Everything's going good. All these people are here, including possibly our general.
Mhm.
Something goes really bad, and we find out that he actually. This is revealed later on that maybe he gets brainwashed or something like that because he used to be the leader, and so they're using him now to like gain support. But basically they're caught by this guy and they don't take them seriously, but they don't know why they're there. And then it gets attacked by the techno whatever bad guys, and they get captured. And as this facility is being overrun and they're trapped in this dungeon, he's like, we don't have any more time to talk about this. Break me out of here and I'll free us. And then as they break out, you see that all these soldiers now, they look way less technically advanced. They have more robotic things as they're just starting to develop.
They have clunky
Mhm.
tech.
Yeah,
Okay.
And so our cyber guys going around like fucking their shit up.
along with Lightning Girl.
I like that.
And the baby elemental, because I do kind of like the idea of just being them in like one of these like a little rock element, like he's like the
he's fire.
He's quartz. He's like a little crystal boy.
You mean like Groot? Think Groot.
I mean, he's very similar to Groot, I think, but he's like a crystal, like quartz, He's like shiny and like clear.
Yeah,
and cute.
Why not?
And cute.
I dig it.
And hard, like they can use him later on to redirect some lasers or something.
Yeah.
Refract, that's useful.
I feel
sure.
that. Avengers.
Block some heat,
Yeah, and so we have our little quartz boy, and
the reason why they're more successful at going back in time is because his augmentations are so advanced. He can actually maneuver and outmaneuver everyone.
I feel like it was his augmentations that fucked up the timeline in going back, because it was supposed to be a week and instead they got spent back way longer.
Yeah,
I think
something in his mechanics fucked up the time travel.
I also think it could be, and because I don't love the idea of him being what messes it up. Personally, it could be. We can come. But the only thing I'm going to pitch is, the base is being attacked as they're setting the thing, and maybe they just didn't have time to set it correctly. They were basically rushed into finishing this time travel thing because they were out of time to do it.
But
just a typo.
But he was an accident.
Happens.
Yeah,
it was an accident.
Him getting sucked in is definitely an accident.
Yeah. But to me, I guess in a story sense, it just makes more sense that he explains why it got fucked up, why everybody might be mad at him more so. You know what I mean? It's sort of like, because they had set it up in a way where it's just these four, right? They did their calculations, whatever, and then he was just there and then fucked up the equation.
What if so originally it was going to be a team of 3, and the thing is something happens to the other guy who's supposed to go with them, and that's why she has to drag him along. She zaps him, and she brings him with because she's like, it only worked. It has to be.
Because the dude got sucked away by some tornado elemental, and he's like,
our soldier shot
she's
him.
like you.
Yeah, exactly. So
or something.
And so she brings him along, and she's like,
Incapacitates him.
it's like, because how this works is it has to be
At
the same
least
amount of living
things.
whatever. But since he has augmentations, he's only 30% man instead of 100% man, and that's what throws off the calculation.
I like that.
And sends
I like
them
the
further back in
complexity.
time.
I like it. Yeah. So they end up there.
Okay.
Now, what my gap is right now is we have an evil force, but an unclear evil force. We have a general that is corrupted that used to not be bad, but there needs to be something more intrinsic and evil to this universe.
So I think that there's so there's the head politician or whatever is the guy who they're going back to assassinate when at this week ago or whatever was a moment where he was in a place where they could get to him.
Yeah.
And they travel so far back that he's not even in power yet.
Right.
He hasn't become this dictator. But the head of the army is the real bad person who uses him basically as a pawn, manipulates him and replaces his brain and stuff like this. So
but he's not even bad yet.
So originally their mission is to go back in time and kill this guy. But now they realize what they have to do is they have to save him and use him to because basically they as they're about to go back and they're okay, we need to break in there, we need to break in, find this guy and kill him, and it's wait, this doesn't make sense, and this is when they're able to discover what the real plot is. They capture an enemy soldier or general or something like that.
So the general though, both the politician and the general, because they went back so far, are neither evil at this point.
Exactly. That's the point. Right?
Well, I think that we do need to have one baddie who's bad the entire time. So I think it's the general, the person who leads the army. I know. So let's break it into 2 things. There's the politician,
right?
There's
and the general.
And the general.
Yeah.
I think the general's always bad, and the general's actually someone who the soldier looks up to in the beginning.
Okay.
It's the head of the army, all this other stuff, but very much in the whole humanity first. Technology is the future. We want to become more machine than
made
human.
him like that? That's just what I mean.
I think
character development.
I think he just is and was. I think we don't
so
need to explain his backstory.
I think it's just more. I think this is a very real thing in real politics. It's an us first, humanity first.
Right.
This is humanity. How long can we survive?
Not big picture enough for myself.
Yeah, I think it is.
Republicans.
Yeah, basically,
it's nationalism in a sense.
Yeah, it's like
yes.
This one is a nationalist. It's humanity and augmentation. We want to become less reliable on nature. Humanity's next form. I think it's very similar to Nimbus. It's this is the next step for humanity, and the elementals are holding us back. Now we can still use them, But
we need to control them to use them because it's easier.
well, and I think also he feels like if he's able to find that way to make humans 100% machine, then there's no need for the elementals at all. He doesn't need the resources for food or.
Well, he needs them to power the machines, but that's it. Because I mean,
yeah,
right.
I mean, I was kind of thinking that maybe, like at a certain point, he can switch over to like a different form of energy.
And that different energy
Nuclear-
is performed by the elementals, though.
Yeah, I think it.
And that's why we need to enslave them.
Yeah, yeah. The only thing
Right.
I'm thinking is like, yeah, I think you're right. But yeah, he thinks that there's no longer need for us to be friendly with them. But
Exactly.
But we
do
can
need them
use
to power our
them
plants.
and we can control them and that's
Enslave,
what's safest for
Yeah.
us, so we don't have to rely on
Right.
them.
Control, safety, fear.
pacify.
Yeah.
Because maybe even back in this timeline, this 50 years, maybe the elementals aren't all friendly. So like it's a weird shift, like a paradigm shift of where not all the guys who were good in the beginning are good, not all the guys who were bad in the beginning are bad.
See, in my head, it's sort of like at least 75 years ago, we had a coexisting pleasant relationship with the elementals. And then we started developing technology and we were like, we don't need them.
Clearly, it couldn't be perfect though, because otherwise we wouldn't have to enslave them. So there had to be a point where the elementals were like, "Nah, man, I'm not going to do this anymore."
Yeah, I think it maybe is, like maybe I mean, it's a little bit cliche, but maybe like the fire elementals don't want to be involved.
Controlled.
And I like the irony of maybe it's the fire elementals, the one who's holding out this last safe spot for these elementals and humans to coexist, and he like realizes his mistake when he's finally like when it's too late.
It would be an Earth one because of the quartz code.
Well, I feel like the quartz guy just kind of gets tagged along again by accident, almost in like a really cute cliche fashion, like onto the soldier's boot or something.
Okay,
But I feel like I really do like the idea of the fire elemental being the last one to keep the oasis, but also the first one to kind of realize like
There's a
we need
problem.
to break away from humans.
So I do like the idea of, as you were saying, so the fire elemental, he's the last remnant, but in the past, he's almost like the bad guy who the elementals are starting to like the relationship with the elementals isn't perfect.
yeah,
And it's like the fire elementals, the relation, and that's the reason why this bad person's like, we can't trust them to always be willing to work with us.
Right.
Because,
humans are innately away.
yeah, and so and so like there's this weird thing where back in time, the friendly fire guy is actually kind of hostile towards them, while the politician who's, the big baddie the big baddie in the beginning,
Right.
who they end up trying to save, is good.
So what if at some point the fire elementals did stage some kind of revolution? There was some sort of violent act that maybe started this. Like, not to say that it was the elementals' fault, but they maybe got pushed to a point
They
where
reacted.
they had to react.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, we have let's say a group of humans that just developed, extra more cyber gear, right?
Okay,
Yeah.
one more slight switch. Instead of planning on going back a week and ending up going back a long time, maybe they were planning to go back to stop the fire elemental revolt, but they ended up not going back far enough and are now having to solve it later on when humanity starts to retaliate against the elementals.
In the middle of the fire elemental revolt, which is also another sense of martial law.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they
Feel.
just, there we go. And so they're they're too late. And so now it's this weird thing where they're having to fight against elementals as well as like find allies in them. And they know if they can save this politician who's going to be the head of state, he can broker peace between them.
Right.
He's the
Before
key
anybody can get to him.
to a solution.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They find out because they find out that he is in the process of being brainwashed, because as someone who was viewed as tolerant on both sides or whatever,
Was
they're-
actually manipulative and shitty.
Was
yeah.
manipulated
Yeah.
by the general.
And so it's now this weird thing where it's so
Yes.
hard for them to tell who is actually on their side at this point, because it's
Right.
not the situation
Because
they expected
nobody even
to be
knows
in.
where they actually are at this point. Because it
Yeah.
is a truly gray area. They ended up in the 50-50.
Yeah. And so like I think it opens up this idea that they're not always fighting cyberpunk guys. Like they can legitimately be fighting elementals and like all this other stuff.
I like that.
And okay, I
Yeah.
actually think we've arrived at it. If we just want to do a recap.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do a quick
Okay.
recap.
So, do we want to start with like what the words actually were?
Well, We'll save that for the end because
Okay.
we're gonna include that in the intro.
Oh, right. My bad.
So we have the movie starts out, or not a movie, whatever
Story.
this is.
I always view things as movies. That's
The
my
story.
brain.
We'll start with the story. But I
Yeah.
think it's going to be a TV series. Yeah.
Ooh.
This narrative, in whatever form it is,
Is
it starts out
narrative?
with this soldier living his life in this, big gray neon cyberpunk thing.
And he's teched out.
He's tech decked out. And we see, the face of this politician that's saying, like, the future is technology. And then there's, like, technology noises. I'm getting a little bit too specific here.
I mean, it helps. The visuals always help.
And he's working as a soldier, and we see him go on this mission or whatever.
I mean, he's in this
Recon.
battle at the Oasis, right?
Yeah, and I think maybe he's kind of high up, because I love the idea of him actually interacting with the general before the
Yeah,
battle.
I mean, they have a
Yes.
relationship. It has his mentor.
And he's part of this, like, he's an elite
Yeah.
strike team. Like, he's like the augmented of the augmented. Like,
Yeah.
he is like,
So, I mean,
Ooh.
his mentor is the General Direct.
yeah. And so we see him get sent in this SEAL Team 6 of, like, augmented robot guys who are fighting
Mhm.
his elementals. And as it's going, they're being taken out, and he's losing contact with his team. And, like, he finally gets the end. He beats this one giant quartz thing.
Mm-hmm.
And as he's about to leave, he sees this rumbling.
Mm-hmm.
As he moves it aside, he sees this little tiny quartz guy
Mhm.
in it, and he can't bring himself to destroy it. So instead,
I
he
mean,
like,
I like that. What I kind of viewed it as is like he killed this thing, and this quartz thing just got stuck on his shoe, like Josh said, just as the group sees him and realizes that they're short one and pulls him in.
well, here's what. Maybe it's like, so he sees the quartz thing and he doesn't destroy it, and it's
Right.
and like instead he ends up like picking the thing up.
Like, what the fuck is this?
He tries to drop it, but it like grabs onto him, and he can't shake it off his
Yeah.
foot.
That's comical.
And so,
I feel.
so the thing, he's like, okay, like whatever, you can hang on, that's fine. And he goes into the next area.
Mhm.
Well, he's like, and at this point he's so confused. He's like, why aren't I killing this thing? And he ends up basically stumbling into this other thing, and he sees this other member of the team. He's like, there's something on your shoulder. He's like, no. And like, as he's trying to shoot it, he ducks out of the way or does something. And that's when the bullet fires past him, kills the other guy who's supposed to go in the machine, because he stumbles into this chamber where there's this battle going on between the last remnants of the humans who are going to time travel, the girl with the electric arm, and
Right.
The fire elemental that's like kind of just trying to protect them as they're traveling back
And
and
why-
forth.
and he ends up stumbling in from the other side. He accidentally flanks him, and like, and
Just in there one open
he's such
spot.
a distraction that this other guy gets killed. But in a rush, she busts his thing, but the quartz elemental stops her, and in a panic, she looks around, grabs him, and pulls him into the thing.
Because that other dude just got sucked out of the group.
Yeah.
And I mean, real quick, he doesn't kill the quartz thing because it's cute.
Yeah.
Got it.
Like he's just like
just to clarify.
like it's like, because when he fights the quartz thing at first, there's this big giant sharp toothed
Right, but
monster
now
that's like
it's like-
smashing.
Now it's cute.
Yeah, and so
Now it's
like he's
Now
like,
it's cute.
and like
And
I
he's
think that
confused
also.
by it.
Yeah, and that I think also gives a reason that like maybe this quartz thing is what saves him from the girl.
Right.
She sees it on his shoulder and is like, okay, what the hell, and grabs him.
Yeah, like and
Well, I
it's this.
feel like she tries to kill him. The quartz thing deflects her shock,
Okay.
and then she was like,
Yeah, she shocks him once and
and
turns
then
all this shit
immediately
off.
after, their fifth member got somehow killed or sucked out of their like sphere of power to go back,
Mhm.
and then she's like, "Fuck, 3, 2, 1."
Like
and
and
grabs
we have
him.
like
I think-
like the person at the computer is like, without him, like the calculations are gonna be
Yeah,
off. We need another
exactly,
body. Blah blah blah.
exactly,
Like,
that shit.
and they grab him, throw him on the platform, and they all
And
get
it throws off the timeline,
and Scotty
they
beams
get
them all
sent
out.
back.
I think SEALs Team 6 guy is the one who still kills the member. Like she turns him off, but he still has like a pistol or something like rudimentary.
I mean, I do like the idea, because I think at that point, then he is definitely a villain in the like
Yes.
I like so
Exactly.
like but I'm saying I think like I think that's why he can't kill a person who's part of the team. I think he
Okay.
can kill people coming into the facility, like he can, and elementals. But I think once he gets in there, it has to be something like the guy's distracted by this guy who shows up with this quartz guy, and he gets shot by a stray bullet.
Okay.
Just because I think if he's the one who kills like a big member of this team,
Yeah.
I think it's going to be almost impossible to believe that in any
Yeah, I
period
mean,
of
I
time
just
they will
assumed
forgive
that
him.
their other unit got just like inadvertently killed last second.
Yeah.
Sure.
And I think he just happened to be there.
Okay.
Like,
That's what I mean. And
like-
she was like, "You."
in his
Yeah.
confusion, like as
Yeah, I got that. Yeah.
Yeah.
As he's seeing this, like, because maybe it's also something like there's propaganda about these elementals is like they're not living creatures, they're monsters, and him seeing a baby one is like shaking his understanding of what these things are.
Like they
And
don't
that
have
they're, like-
feelings, and they don't have this, and they
And like
don't
this is a
have
living
that.
creature, so it's almost like he's shell shocked as he's walking
Mhm.
through his battle. Like he takes off like his helmet, and it's like walking his team's like, "What are you doing up there?" And like his other guys see him, he's like, "What is this?" Boom, he gets shot. Like it's just like this weird circumstances like of this flesh. And as he gets sucked back in time, he's like, "What's going on?" Like, and he's been deactivated mostly by this girl, and like,
Mhm.
and like this team is trying to figure out what's going on, and they still don't trust him. And then suddenly they're captured by these elementals. Like, what are
Right,
you
in the
doing?
past.
By
Yeah.
the revolting fire elementals of the past.
And most
Yeah.
of his powers do not work because the infrastructure is not in place to charge him. She can charge him.
Yeah, and so
Yeah.
like there's not like, and there's this confusion. They're interviewed, and it's the general. They're like, wait, it's the politician who like wait, I know this guy. Like this is the guy from here. He's the leader of all this other stuff. They're like, what year is it? And they find out, fuck, we got our calculations wrong. What are we going to do? And that's when the technos burst in and start trying to like fuck everything up.
Right.
And he's able to convince, turn me on, I can get us all out of here. Like I
Mhm.
know I can do this. Like
That's his name, Termulon.
no.
Absolutely not.
And they-
Sorry. No.
And
Termulon.
they break out and they hatch this new plan. Okay, the president guy, what happened to him? Like, what's this thing? And they in their escape, they're able to capture one of the guys, and they find out that it's like, oh, we had to capture this guy so that we can use him as a pawn or whatever. So like,
Right.
okay, new strategy. If we're able to save this politician, there's chance to restore peace between the people and the elementals and
Mhm.
stop this all from happening, even though it isn't going back to what we wanted to do, which was to stop the elementals from revolting in the first place or being framed for revolting or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And
And basically, the goal is to restore and establish peace between these two races on this planet.
Between nature and technology.
Exactly.
all while fighting through society is revolting because
And
the elementals are attacking.
disagreeing.
They've been pushed too hard
individuals.
with humans. The humans
Right.
feel like
Yeah.
they need more because
And
their
so-
technology requires more.
Because maybe the elementals
Find the
were
relationship.
maybe the elemental revolt wasn't just an elemental thing. Maybe it was them trying to help the humans revolt because they didn't like their government. Like it was
Well,
like
certain humans. I mean, the idea was that the major discourse is that, like elementals and humans used to exist in peace, right? Using each other, right? Aiding each other in existence, and then like we got greedy and our technology required more energy
Mhm.
and we needed more elemental energy and they
Well-
weren't willing to give it, and then we tried to enslave them.
I was saying slight twist is what if like these humans were like had this like dictator system or whatever, and the humans decided, a group of them decided they were going to revolt, and the elements decided to aid this revolt group, and that's where the martial law comes in. It's because they're cracking down to try to stop the revolt, and that's why the elementals can't be trusted because then why they have to be enslaved is because they sided with the revolters, and they're capturing the head of the revolt to make him a pawn of this puppet state
So
to keep the
basically, the
people
world
pacified.
always existed
Mhm.
for humans as a dictatorship, always. At least
No.
very far back.
Yeah, I mean, as far as
No,
like for what they're
that's-
living in is in
Because that's
the,
not what I like. What I imagine is that there was peace, and then there was technology, and then there was unrest.
yeah, I think that's like the entire history.
Yeah,
But I think the point we're at is where humanity is like starting this dictatorship kind of thing over these
Right.
people. And as these people try to revolt and they get the aid of the elementals,
right. Who are like, we want balance.
then boom,
Then war.
elementals are a danger. We
Mhm.
need to overthrow these people.
Yeah.
We need to capture
Okay.
their leader, install him as a puppet so that
Right.
we can control the masses by making them think everything's all right.
Yeah.
And so we got to save him. That'll save the elementals. That'll change where the future is heading and get us able to restore the balance between nature and this thing.
Right. And then that is the goal of the time travel mission.
Yes. Well, the goal of the time travel mission is to stop the revolt from
Original.
happening.
Yes.
Or something along those lines. Or maybe,
For- keep the Oasis and the 4 original elementals from being destroyed.
Yeah.
to stop them from stopping any of the elementals from being captured or something like.
Right.
And they go to the
Dead.
wrong date, but then they find this new thing with this twist that they didn't realize that this guy was once a good person because
Right.
the elemental never told them that.
Morality.
And the elementals were once potentially bad.
Yes. And
Yeah,
so
that's it.
There, I think, and then
I think that's
you know
That's it.
you'll have to tune in to this. I think the best way to produce this will be a series of prizes you win in cereal boxes.
Interesting.
Um,
Okay.
Whoa.
like mazes and crossword puzzles.
You know, I don't hate that.
It's an
And-
interesting narrative. I feel like could be done.
What cereal?
And then maybe there's a
Fruity
crossover
Pebbles?
with McDonald's where you can get toys and the Happy Meals.
Lucky Charms?
I think we spread this shit out.
I think we only do it with not even boxes of
Wheaties.
cereal, but the bags of off-brand cereal.
those
the
are the best,
kangaroo
yes.
Yes. Kangaroos.
Rice
Fruity
Krispies?
Dino Bites, I think is what they
Yeah.
are. And
Yeah,
oh
yeah,
God,
yeah.
what are the crisp rice?
High Karma Symbols, which is the Lucky Charms off-brand.
You just got high karma symbols? You just call it high karma symbols?
And it's the off-brand.
Did he say those words?
He did those words. We have it on record.
That's the
Um,
best thing I've ever heard for a week.
well, we need a name. We need a name for this.
That's my favorite thing. I don't think you
This-
understand high karma symbols.
Elemental, my dear Watson.
Okay, I'm a
Lightning
rename.
Arm McGee.
I'm a name this in a way that I want to actually look at. No, I shouldn't. I just came up with 14 dumb things.
Earth, Wind, and Fire.
That's what I was thinking.
And also the other one.
Earth,
It's
Wind,
gonna
and Fire,
end up getting
and,
called the elements.
and a computer.
The element. Cybermints. No way. I wanted to.
I kind of love the idea of naming it similar, like the next wave of Avengers movies. One of them is called Thor: Love and Thunder, and like that's so, and like
That's
like, I really-
great.
I know exactly what they're
Wind,
going
Love,
for
and
is
Tech,
like because like
like-
Ragnarok was like the whole like retro feel. And I think Love and Thunder they're going for the real like they're going for that real like 80s
Mhm.
80s like vibe. And so maybe we named this similar like in a similar kind of fashion where it was like
Cyber elements.
like
Okay.
Elements 1988. I don't know.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm feeling.
man, the name's really gonna catch us up on this one. We can edit out the
Yeah,
part.
Yeah, we
of
can.
course, don't worry.
We have as much time
We
as
have
we
the
want to figure this out.
technology.
That's it. That's the name. We have the technology.
1988.
1988.
Wires and water. Nope.
This isn't about toasters, Tony.
Fire of my heart. No.
So it's like we have elements and we have humans and we have technology. Those are our three key things, and we have.
Element Man.
If he was elemental, then yes.
Hmm.
Tech Man versus water. Let me think of something cooler and somehow lamer.
Nature versus motor.
I love it,
Nature
but
versus.
low. But low.
Oh, I can't wait till we do one of these episodes that's about sick car stunts.
I'm gonna be stuttered up on that.
Maybe this is just the next Mad Max movie.
Okay, elementals versus not humans, not at the same time technology,
I was thinking
cyberpunk.
about car stunt names.
Oh man.
That's all I got.
Elemental Back to the Future. Work with it.
Back. In cyber
Fire.
Cyberfire. Cyberfire is not bad.
Cyberfire is about. I was trying to think of
okay.
something like set in stone. or
Cyberfire.
Like, something like
I'm
that.
I'm
'cause we're
comfy
going
with
back in time.
Cyberfire is something I wouldn't mind seeing as a file name on my computer to organize this.
I think Cyberfire is a good working title, but when we come
Yeah,
back
We need
next
something
week,
better.
when we come back next week to finalize and talk about how well our project is doing,
Right.
we will have a new
we
name.
will rehash it.
We need to get the cereal brands on board first.
But
of course.
right now
or
the
get
name
our
is
sponsors.
right now the
Cyberfire,
name is Cyberfire,
for ease of editing
and then the tagline is it's basically Avatar 2.
with elementals.
Oh, I was gonna say
cyber-
nothing
then there's-
set in stone.
And then there's
Oh
a
my
third
god.
And
Thank
then
you.
there's a third tagline that says it's the James Cameron one, not the M. Night Shyamalan one.
And
With
none of
another
this is
subtitle.
none of this is set in stone.
None of this
Nothing
is
set in stone. I think it were Cyberfire, Nothing Set in Stone. That's the
set-
title of the
I love
series.
Actually,
I
Set in
love
Stone, I think
Thank
might be a
you.
better name than
Okay.
Thank you.
Cyberfire.
Set in stone
Thank
is
you.
what the file names then will be.
Set in Stone.
Set in
Set in
Stone.
stone. Buzzy.
Tagline, this is Avatar 2.
Tagline.
Non-negotiable.
James Cameron one, not the M. Night
James
Shyamalan
Cameron.
one.
Hit me up on Twitter. It's at
You're
Tasty
welcome.
Tony Tweets. It's not very active, but
Which is another cereal brand that will be sponsoring us.
yes, that's the brand of cereal that we will use to convey this story. So Tasty Tony treats for Tasty Tony Tweets. And that's all right.
That's it, y'all.
I've been Anthony Wilkinson,
I'm Josh Robbins.
I've also been Linnea Anderson my whole life.
and I guess happy building.
Paula.